Did I scare you? Welcome into a Halloween edition of Daily Faceoff live on the Daily Faceoff YouTube, and brought to you by Fountain Tire. Fountain Tire specializes in tire and auto service, and you don't have to settle for a good deal or good customer service, because at Fountain Tire, they do both. They treat your vehicle like it's their vehicle, whether it's new tires or maybe something wrong with your engine. Stop in a Fountain Tire today, and they will sort you out. And right now, you can get up to $225 off on a set of four select tires, including Goodyear. And this runs up until December 14th, plus an extra $50 or more on any service of $150. Some restrictions apply. Stop into Fountain Tire today. Did you think maybe I had left? You're going to have to do the show solo, Frank? That's a good Halloween trick.
It would be something. I don't know that I'd be prepared for that. It'd be a lot of talking. Just one guy into microphone, monologue style, Trump style.
Running for the next 30 minutes. We got a lot to get to today. Our boy Jeff Paterson is going to swing by from Vancouver. A scary result if you were a Canucks fan last night, losing 6-0 to the New Jersey Devils. But our four topics today, Frank, is all about it. It's Halloween themed. It's tricks, it's treats, it's some spooky stats. Let's start with the tricks, though. And, maybe a bit of a negative storyline, I suppose, but who and what team in the NHL, with their results through the first 3 weeks here, has been playing the biggest trick on us all?
It's hard to say because you really don't want to downplay the success that teams have had. I can tell you that the Minnesota Wild are not going to be playing at a 127-point pace this season. They're 6-1-2 to start, and they've been really impressive. Kirill Kaprizov deserves all the credit in the world for his game and where he stands right now. 18 points in 9 games. He's been out of this world good. That said, my one concern with the Wild is that can they continue to score at this pace? The big driving factor in all of this has been Kaprizov and his impact. You look at his points and the way that they're structured. He's got 10 primary assists. And in addition to the goals that he scored, those are goals sort of directly created by him. The rest of the group, they've gotten some guys that have chipped in 2 and 3 goals here and there. I just don't know that it's necessarily sustainable from that perspective, as good as Kaprizov has been, that the Wild can continue to play at this type of clip.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I think when you look at some of the, save percentage, shooting percentage, PDO stuff, it is a little bit high for the Minnesota Wild, and I think they'll come back down to earth. But the reason why they're the team I say has changed my opinion on them the most is they'll come back down to earth to be a team that's probably in the high 90s, low 100-point range, and I didn't even think they would be that.
Yeah, and look, I think certainly have a shot here. The West is really mushy in the middle to be a playoff team. They were the prior 2 seasons. Perhaps we kind of underestimated them heading into this year because of the way last season finished. But they certainly, and the other interesting part about this year for the Wild is they've done it mostly without Jared Spurgeon, who is a big reason why their season, with the time that he missed last year, went south.
Yeah, my pick for this one, it's going to be the Seattle Kraken. I'm going to stay out west. And I know people will say, like, oh, what, they're 550 points percentage? You're going to call that unsustainable or say it's a trick? And honestly, I kind of am. They're top 10 in 5-on-5 shooting percentage. They're pretty high up in PDO as well. I think you can look at those things and say, okay, the numbers should come down a little bit. And their forward group is fine, and Jared McCann's having a great year. Jordan Eberle, the new captain, is having a great start to the season as well. But I don't think they're a top 10 forward group. I view them as a team that just has a bunch, or has one second line and then a couple of third lines, but they miss that star power that I think you quite honestly need in today's NHL to be a consistent team through 82 games. I don't see it there with the Seattle Kraken. Philip Grubauer, he's barely a backup, I think, at this point, when you look at how poor his numbers have been over the last couple of seasons, basically since joining the Kraken. And Joey Daccord is fine, but he's not a workhorse number one. I can sit here and poke a lot of holes in this Kraken team, Frank. Right now, they look like a playoff team. I'm telling you, by Christmas, they will not.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked, and I would throw another team in there, the Kings. I think without Drew Doughty, it's been really impressive. I think they've overachieved a little bit and maybe free from the shackles of the really structured game that they played last year. That's helped their offense break out a bit. I'm still curious about the Kings. Are they really a 105-point team?
Yeah, 36 goals in 11 games is great. 36 goals against is not quite as great. Let's flip the ledger now and talk about some of the treats, Frank. And for your pick, just based on the picture at the bottom of our screen, you're staying in the Pacific.
Yeah, I think the Vegas Golden Knights are a really good hockey team. And I know that their season last year was a roller coaster ride. It was up and down and it was all over the place, but they can score, they can defend. They've got the makings of that core, especially locked up with Noah Hannafin and Shea Theodore and Alex Pietrangelo for the foreseeable future. I think their goaltending is, arguably one of the best value tandems in the league. And I think this team, maybe they're not going to be scoring at 4.5 goals a game for the entire season, but I think they've been a treat to this point, and I think they are really close to being in that, if they're not already, that inner circle of contenders. I think they're a true team to be reckoned with when it comes to the playoffs, and I like everything that I've seen from Vegas from this point.
Yeah, I have a hard time disagreeing with that. Mark Stone, fully healthy, looking great. I think one area I maybe overlooked with the Golden Knights, impact of a full year of a healthy Tomas Hertl, impact of a full year of Noah Hannafin. And like those two guys, those aren't average players. Those are like high-end players that they're now getting for all 82. And a healthy Mark Stone is basically like an off-season ad as well if he can stay in the lineup for 82 games. So Vegas looks good. They're sitting atop the Pacific Division right now, and I'd be willing to bet on them staying in that range.
Who you got?
Yeah, for me, I'm going with the team that beat the Vegas Golden Knights a couple years ago in the Stanley Cup Final. Sorry, lost to them in the Stanley Cup Final. I'm going with the defending champs, the Florida Panthers, Frank, 7-3-1. And, they lost Brandon Montour. They lost Oliver Ekman-Larsson. I think there would have been reason to raise an eyebrow and go, hey, what's their blue line going to look like? Is Sam Reinhart a 50-plus goal guy again? A bunch of reasons, but what I've seen from the Panthers so far through 3 weeks is zero reasons to think that they aren't still a Stanley Cup contender. They've gone through a stretch now without Barkov. They've gone through a couple of games without Matt Tkachuk, and they just keep on winning. They're the definition of having a winning culture, and they have proven here in the first month of the season they are absolutely not going anywhere. And it also helps when Sam Bennett, he's clearly gone to the Sam Reinhart school of how to get paid in a contract year, because he is off to a flying start, 12 points in 11 games.
Yeah, I would say there's two things about the Panthers. I don't think that their start is a trick by any means, but one is their consistency game to game. It has been a little bit all over the place. And two is I'm still not a huge believer in that defense core. And it hasn't been battle tested yet. It's been off to a good start, and they do get a lot of help from their forwards, and they do possess the puck a lot. And there are a lot of really good things about that Florida team and the way they play that can help them assimilate new faces into that blue line. But nonetheless, I think the jury's still out on that part of their team, and rightfully so.
Yeah, and that is fair as well. And hey, playing in the Atlantic is not easy on top of that. That's looking like it's going to be one of the tougher divisions in hockey this season, Frank, from the tricks to the treats to the downright spooky, the fan bases that should be shaken and shivering a little bit as they watch what's going on. And I'll go first on this one just because we got a comment in the YouTube from Mark who said, hey, Frank, any news on Lalonde? I can't take the Red Wings playing the way they are anymore. They need some kind of a change. I look at this Detroit team, and I know today I asked you and Jason Gregor on the DFO rundown your thoughts on the Red Wings start to the season, and you both kind of said, like, hey, everyone should have seen this coming. They're 4-5-1 to start the year. Again, not a terrible stretch by any means, but they aren't looking like a team who's ready to take that step into the playoffs. Their blue line is simply not good enough. And I go back to something I said, I think it was a week, 10 days ago, whatever it was. Sure, you're happy with what you're getting from a guy like a Vladimir Tarasenko. But now that you've moved on from Ali Mata and you made the move to move on from a guy like Jake Wallman over the summer, and then you spent that money on your forward group was not the issue. And I know they're not scoring right now, but I think big picture wise, your forward group was not the issue. They should have spent more money on their blue line, because now they're at a point where Simon Edvinsson, rookie defenseman, he's got to be playing top pair minutes. Like, the blue line's a problem. And this last summer was a major, major misstep in the Iser plan, if you still want to call it that.
I couldn't agree more. I've been pretty front and center about my thought process on the Red Wings. I don't think their defense core is anywhere near where it needs to be, and I picked them to finish last in the division. I mean, still a real possibility. It's a jumbled mess right now, but I like what they have going on at forward. It's just Simon Edvinsson and Mo Seider. That can't be the entire makings of your defense core. Um, I just, yeah, that's where I'm at. And when I'm looking at another team that's sort of really been spooky to start, that also starts with the play in their own end, it's the Montreal Canadiens. The rate that they've given up goals, 28th in the NHL, that actually is demeaning. It's wrong. It makes it look wrong how well Sam Montembeault has played in front of them. Like, he's actually been really good, and yet this is where the Habs are at in terms of goals against. They just they give up way too much. I don't know that there's any cleaner way to say it than that. They've been able to score. There's been some bright spots. Cole Caulfield has been an amazing story to start the season. I think there are tons of reasons for optimism for the Montreal Canadiens, because the defense that you see now is not the defense that you will see in a couple years from now. This is sort of like one of those transition years and stages, but nonetheless, the Montreal Canadiens expected to take a massive step forward this year. They wanted to be more competitive. They haven't been to this point, and it's because of the way that they've played defensively that's been their sole biggest contributor to that.
Yeah, gaming oddity in. I'm a Pens fan. It is a very spooky year. I think that's a great comment. Penguins currently sitting dead last in the Metropolitan Division. We're going to move on to talk about some individual players, but one that would fit into this category, Frank. And, we haven't talked about the Buffalo Sabres in a bit, just like the Red Wings and Canadians and Bruins. They're 4-5-1 to start the season as well, a part of that big mush at the bottom of the Atlantic. But how about a guy like Dylan Cousins? He has not scored in 10 games this year. Someone who really burst on the scene a couple of years ago. Buffalo gave him that really big contract. And again, 10 games does not define a player's season, let alone a player's upside or a player's career. But if you're sitting here as the Sabres, north of $7 million committed to this guy for a while, Frank, this is a concerning start after what was a slow season last year.
Yeah, and look, there's a lot of players that you could make the same commentary about. People have been all over Brad Marchand for his 1 point, and go through the list. It's been a tough start for some guys. I'm gonna flip to topic 4 because I want to be a little more positive. I'm a full size candy bar guy on Halloween. You gotta point out some guys that have, I think, in my mind, certainly been really sweet treats in the sense of this was unexpected. When I look at Stefan Nason with the New Jersey Devils, are you kidding me? 12 points in 13 games, under $3 million a year. And there were some people at the time saying, hey, this guy, you're overpaying to get him in your lineup. And by the way, another fantastic addition for New Jersey has been Paul Cotter. And we'll talk about last night's Hughes Bowl in a second coming up with Jeff Paterson. But I think he's been a hugely impressive addition, and it's not for the points. Is Stefan Nason going to put up 12 points in 13 games as his pace the rest of the way? Absolutely not. But his net front presence and his ability to play up in the lineup with high hockey IQ players, with skilled players, playing with skilled players is a skill in and of itself that I think we often overlook. So that to me is one to stand out, and you got to give some love to Neil Pionk. I'm going through my Four Nations Faceoff Team USA projected roster. I can't send one in without putting Neil Pionk on this team. Competitive, north of a point per game. This season has been Neil Pionk's coming out party for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, he has been great. That Jets offense has come alive. Pionk playing on the second power play unit. Like, he's getting so many opportunities, and he's absolutely making the most of them. The player I wanted to give some love to is Tage Thompson. Again, if I was hard on a Sabre, then I'll be nice to another one. But 7 goals in 10 games. Again, we all remember a few years back when he burst onto the scene, that 38-goal season, followed it up with a 47-goal season. And it was like, okay, this guy looks like a superstar. And then last year, that little bit of a step back at 29 goals in 71 games. Listen, I know that's still a 30-plus goal pace, but coming into this year, I think it was, and whether it's fair or not, it's a little bit of like, okay, are you going to be in the 20-goal range again? And is that big 47-goal season, is that going to be the anomaly we look back at in Tage Thompson's career? Or are you going to return to that 40-goal pace? And are we going to sit there and look at the 29-goal season and say, yup, just a blip. This guy is a bona fide superstar. And what we've seen through 10 games for the Sabres is a lot of production. And the question of, boy, if Tage Thompson wasn't producing like this, the Sabres would not be 4-5-1. They might be one of those teams we put in the downright spooky category.
Yeah, I'm bullish on the Sabres. I am. Considering the way that they started 3-1 and the lack of scoring that they had to start, I think there's a lot of kinks to work out. I think still certainly some summer hockey elements to the way that they defend, but I think the Sabres are going to figure it out.
And I like their goaltending duo as well. UPL, basically from the middle of December on last year, was one of the best goalies in the NHL, and the Sabres going to need that and a step up from Devin Levi, but it looks like they could be getting it. All right, let's move along, Frank, and let's get to our big segment for the day. It's the All 32 with Jeff Paterson. Jeff Paterson from Rink-Wide Vancouver and Canucks Army. Always a pleasure to have you on the show, Jay Pat. Let's talk about last night's Hughes Bowl, which went decidedly in the way of Jack and Luke. A 6-0 final, a spooky one if you're Canucks fans, as they only put up 20 shots. And, you know, it hasn't been a totally miserable start to the season. They are 4-2-3, though. And I guess where I want to go with this from a Canucks perspective is, when things aren't going well for them, like it has on a few nights this season, what's missing from their game?
Well, Rick Tocchet is a Staples guy, right? Like, he just loves to talk about his board battles and wall work and everything else. The Staples have completely abandoned the Vancouver Canucks. This is a team that gave up 6 goals on home ice once last year to New Jersey. It's happened twice in the first 5 games. They have 1 home ice victory in the first 5 games at the Rod. So the paying customers aren't exactly getting their money's worth. And Rick Tocchet talked about it last night. The guys, too many guys have gone rogue here. This is a team, and you guys were around them in the playoffs as well, all about lockdown, making it really difficult for other teams to get to the net, to score. Teams are scoring on the Canucks with ease. Calgary did it 6 times on opening night, and the Devils just skated circles around the Canucks. So full credit to the Devils. Nico Hischier, incredible as he's been all season. First guy to 10 goals in the National Hockey League. He opens the scoring 53 seconds in on a brutal defensive breakdown, and that's really been one of the stories of the Canucks season. Kevin Lankinen, when you're talking about good news stories, I would heap Kevin Lankinen in there. He's been the Canucks MVP for a guy that wasn't even in training camp. And you mentioned the record. 2 outright losses in 9 games. And you think, well, it can't be that bad. Lankinen has sort of masked a lot of the problems for the Vancouver Canucks. And even like the night against Carolina the other night, they don't get to overtime and get a single point without the heroics of Kevin Lankinen. He had the night off last night. Artur Silovs, last year's playoff hero, it's been a disaster for him. He's given up 6 goals in 2 of his 3 starts already this season. So we haven't even talked about the offensive problems with Elias Pettersson and Jake DeBrusk and some of the other guys. Right now here in Vancouver, plenty of problems to go around.
Yeah, but that said, I was listening to Rick Tocchet last night, J-Pad, and he was really quite measured. Did that surprise you?
I think he's being a little careful, as a lot of coaches will, picking their spots to really down. Like, it's an off day for the Canucks today. I'm curious to see what Friday's practice looks like, because he hasn't really cracked the whip with this group, but he has repeatedly put it back on their feet, that it's on the players. And he knows, like, this is a team that had 5 guys, and then Lindholm joined the grip at the All-Star game. He was part of the All-Star mix, Coach of the Year, Norris Trophy winner. We know the accolades from last year, and I don't know if these guys are resting on the laurels of last year, but the page turns. It's a new season, and right now, in the here and now, 9 games in, this Vancouver Canuck team does not resemble the group that won 50 times and 109 points and clinched the Pacific in the regular season and took Edmonton to a 7th game in the second round. Last year was fun. There was a lot to like in last year, but there were also some underlying problems too. Down the stretch, the power play was brutal. We know about Elias Pettersson's issues. Some of that has carried over here into this year, but one thing I didn't expect was to see how sort of loose and porous defensively the Vancouver Canucks have been here through the first 9 games.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big change to their defense core, right? Like, there was significant overhaul from not just, the beginning of last season to the end, but also this summer as well, that I think the lack of puck movers is something that I've heard Tocchet key in on, that I think has probably really hurt this team. But just wanted to touch on the Hughes Bowl for a second. Any clue why Jack Hughes has absolutely owned this matchup? 15 points now in 8 games against the Canucks. The Devils are 7-1, brother on brother. That doesn't sound right.
Well, back it up even further, Frank. The Devils are 16-3 in their last 19 games against the Vancouver Canucks. Explain that for me, because in that time, the Devils have had 2 first overall draft picks. Like, they've been brutal in the last decade, really. And yet they have absolutely owned the Vancouver Canucks. So that's just one of those statistics that doesn't make a lot of sense. Obviously, they've got firepower. They've exploited the Canucks. As we said, scored 6 on them last year and 6 again last night. And yeah, it's got to be, I mean, like, if you're Quinn, not much you can do, right? Like, big brother, he's the big brother, but Jack is the big man in this matchup. It was just the second time all 3 of them have shared NHL ice. So yeah, Jack and the Devils have owned the Vancouver Canucks. It is hard to fathom and understand, but as much as we build it up as the Hughes Bowl, it really has been the New Jersey Devils just laying a beat down yet again on the Vancouver Canucks.
And maybe that was one thing that stood out the most. You mentioned just a quick start from New Jersey, but watching the game, the difference in team speed might have been more evident last night than it's been at any other point this season.
Yeah, and the Canucks thought that they had gone out and addressed some of that over the offseason, brought in some players that they thought were going to up the speed quotient, but it really hasn't been all that noticeable yet. And again, it's 9 games, and sure, a lot of teams have new players and trying to integrate, but some of those new players, I mentioned Jake DeBrusk was brought in with the express purpose of scoring goals. 9 games in, Zippo, and last night didn't have a shot on goal. It really has been way too quiet around Jake DeBrusk. Daniel Sprong was a late free agent signing, but a guy that has scored goals in the National Hockey League. He scored the first goal of the season for the Canucks. That's his only goal that he's scored to this point. If you had told me at the end of the first month that Danton Heinen and Kiefer Sherwood would have outscored Sprong and DeBrusk by a considerable margin, I don't think I would have taken that bet. So, yeah, I mean, there's just, again, their overall record with 11 points in 9 games, not terrible, but there are some real warts sort of being exposed with this group and just not enough guys doing what they're paid handsomely to do for this hockey club.
One guy who is always a lightning rod in Vancouver is Elias Pettersson. It feels like every time I look at daily faceoff and the line combos, he's playing with somebody different. I know yesterday Canucks fans were sharing that clip where he gets that look right in the middle of the ice. He's got, it feels like 3 seconds to load it up. Boom, right in the chest of Jacob Markstrom. He's very clearly lacking confidence right now, but what would you do if you're the Vancouver Canucks? Is there a solution to the Elias Pettersson problem?
I think he's got to play his way out of it. They brought in DeBrusk. That combination only lasted 2 games, and they went away from it. They've tried different players to spark him. Connor Garland's been probably their most consistent forward from the start of the season. He's played with Paterson the last bunch of games, and that really hasn't done much. His only goal came the other night against Pittsburgh. It is wild, guys. It looks like he's not terribly interested. And I want to be careful when I say that, because I'm sure he is, but just to watch this guy that broke into the NHL, scored on his first shot, scored 10 goals in his first 10 games, won the Calder, 102-point season, like, to watch him now through the first month of the season really has been a carryover to the playoffs last year, to the stretch run. You track it back to the All-Star break. Try this on for size. 32 consecutive games, regular season and playoffs, where he hasn't had a multi-point game. This is the NHL. Goals are being scored. Guys are getting points. And he's gone 32 games where it's been 1 or none for Elias Pettersson. And last night was none, obviously, as they got shut out. So it is baffling. It's bizarre. He doesn't shoot the puck much. When he does, as you pointed out, Tyler, like, that would have been bar down and in a couple of years ago. And instead, just a weak little fling at the net, and Markstrom handles it easily. And that was on the power play at the end of the first period last night. And guys, that's the other thing, too. You've got the Norris winner. You've got 2 guys that have been 100-point players in the NHL in Miller and Pettersson. You got a 40-goal guy in Brock Besser. And this power play stinks. On the homestand, 3-game homestand, went 0 and gave up a shorty last night. So it was a net negative in 3 games against the Penguins, the Hurricanes, and last night against the New Jersey Devils. There's too much talent. The component parts are there. They are so up in their head. And Rick Tocchet last night after the game basically just said, like, yeah, this thing's a mess, and we got to figure it out in a hurry.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's still early and there are a lot of fan bases saying that, but we also know that American Thanksgiving sort of deadline everyone likes to use, it comes in a hurry. J-Pat, as always, appreciate your time, man. Thanks for doing this.
All right, guys. Happy Halloween.
Thanks again to Jeff for joining us. You can find his work over at Canucks Army. He also makes a ton of appearances on the Sakaris and Price Show. All right, Frank, hashtag AskDFO question. It's brought to you today by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian-owned and operated since 1972. More than 85 locations across the country through Charm and their sister brands. You can check out their large selection of Canadian lab-grown diamonds, mine diamonds, and you don't pay until 2025 with their instant in-store financing, OAC. For more information, go to charmdiamondcenters.com. I got two for you here, Frank. One of them came in, and there's a lot of chatter in our comment section today about the Flyers' goaltending struggles. And to flip this one around, if the Flyers are ranked 32 in goaltending, who would you say is ranked number 1?
Off the cuff, the New York Rangers is probably a pretty good one. I mean, Shesterkin's awesome, but I don't feel any big drop in confidence when Jonathan Quick's in net. I would say on a low key, value basis, I really like the Washington Capitals and Vegas Golden Knights relative to what they spend, and hard to go against the Jets. I mean, the Jets brought in Capo Kakinen this year as the third guy to see if he could win the spot over Eric Comrie in camp. Comrie retains the position and has a really good start to the year, so they haven't missed a beat in his 2 starts when he's subbing in for Connor Hellebuck. So there's 4 answers for you.
Yeah, one team, they have the 5th best goals against. We talked about them earlier in the show, but if you want to talk about being able to just throw either guy in the tandem out there right now and feel pretty good, Minnesota's getting great results from both Fleury and Gustafsson. A nice little bounce back from Gustafsson. Fleury in his final year playing great.
Hot take, I think Marc-Andre Fleury should be on Four Nations face-off for Canada.
Oh, man.
Why not? Why can't he be the third guy?
Frank, with the way he's playing and how some other candidates, Jari, Skinner, have started the year.
Tell me why he's not the third guy.
Frank, I'm saying you might be able to make the argument he's better than the third guy.
I think he is, but I also think the fact that he's so well liked and has been in pressure cooker situations. He's won 3 Stanley Cups. He's been the guy that's delivered all 16 wins to win a Stanley Cup before. There's only so many guys that have that resume, let alone can take the temperature down in a room. Like, if he's not playing anyway, why not have that guy around your team for 10 days?
Best save percentages, I just pulled it up, by a Canadian goalie who's started at least 3 games this year. Talbot 1, Hofer 2, Fleury 3. Interesting.
And probably Binnington is in the mix to make the team.
Yeah, Binnington's 6 or 5 on the list.
Yeah, just another more fake tough guy stuff from Jordan Binnington too. Awesome. We need more of that in our lives.
I tweeted it yesterday because there were more people quote tweeting that, being like, I can't wait for him to fight and get the shit kicked out of him and all this stuff. And I tweeted, I was like, it would also be at this point, because this story's gone on for like 3 years, of people being like, I hope he gets the snot beaten out of him. It would be funny if when he drops the gloves, he just demolishes a guy. Like, again,
yeah, if that were going to happen, he would have already done it. And not for nothing, like the act is so old. It's beyond old. You ever hear like the man in the arena? That's not Jordan Binnington.
Fair.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to our daily bets, brought to you by Bet365. Check them out. Download the app and use the promo code NATION to get in on a huge range of markets. That's NATION. A nice 1-1 day for me, but I nailed that Blue Jackets underdog. It's always good to hit a plus money bet. Going right back to that tonight. Oilers, Preds, under. Frank, I think there are kind of 2 outcomes here. Either Edmonton's offense does not wake up without Connor McDavid. They run into a red-hot Predators team, and this is like a 4-1 final for the Preds, or a 4-0 final. Or if Edmonton does win, it's probably because Calvin Pickard continues his strong play. Back-to-back good starts. He was excellent in Nashville about 10 days ago as well when the 2 sides went toe-to-toe. I just kind of see, no matter which side wins here, and I know Nashville's favored it, and it's likely them, I just think it'll be low scoring here with McDavid out of the lineup.
No, I wouldn't touch that anyway. Like, I don't like any parts of the under. I don't like betting unders anyway, but I could see either one of those teams getting there on their own.
All right. Well, then we shall see. That's why they call it gambling. Shot prop parlay for you. 2 guys, line set at 1.5 on each of them. Foligno and McMahon each have hit this in 2 of their last 3. Play them together. It's plus 151. Always like a little low shot prop parlay. Let's wrap up the show with our garbage time segment. Frank, it is Halloween. That means NHL players have started to show off their costumes a little bit. A few good ones here. We can flash up the photos first if we have them, Pat. You had members of the LA Kings going as NWA. I thought this was very, very well done and fitting, being they are the LA Kings. We got whatever is going. Monsters Inc. Is that what we got here from the Boston Bruins?
That's really bad.
Yeah, that one, that's a tough look for the Bees. Some of them are
those are like dollar store costumes.
Not exactly. If you're gonna go and do it, you got to be at least a little bit more all out and creative. But this is my favorite one. Matt Rempe and Jonathan Quick with the play on Elf. Rempe, huge, Quick, little, the old guy, the young guy, the way the picture lines up. This is tremendous.
Yeah, it's really good. I love even the window in the background.
I like the one you shared, Frank. Don Waddell. Let's run the video, or Pat, we have the video to play for people to get the visual. But this
you mean Don Lantern?
It's so good.
So apparently this is a bit that he did, and he did this when he worked for the Canes too. 2019, just same thing, scooter, costume, everything. I don't know if he brought it with him to Columbus or if he just Uber rented one of those scooters, but either way, fantastic. And nice to know that Don Lantern does not mess around when it comes to Halloween.
I don't know why this is so funny, but it's just so funny to watch him scooter through with like the borderline straight face. It's great. Okay, that's a wrap on today's edition of the show. Another reminder, Frank's interview with Connor Bedard is out now. Find Frankly Speaking wherever you get your podcast from, or just stay right here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. Watch it, hit the subscribe button, all of that good stuff. Enjoy your Halloween night, everybody, and we'll be back tomorrow with a Four Nations roster preview on Daily Faceoff Live. We'll chat with you then. What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you're going to want to hit the subscribe button to not miss any of our content. From daily live shows with Frank Saravalli to analysis from former NHLers to exclusive interviews with some of the biggest names in the hockey world on Frankly Speaking. You're going to want to hit that subscribe button and stay up to date with everything going on in the hockey world.